Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday. It's Wealthy Wednesday. And you know what? Wealth isn't just about money. It's really, in my opinion, and this is only me saying it, wealth to me is what your health is all about. When you have your health, in my opinion, you've got your wealth. Hello, Nicole, and welcome today.
Hi, Glenda. And you started off perfectly because that's one of the things that I'm really focused on is I tell my kids, I'm like, you can always make money somewhere, but if you don't take care of yourself, you might never get to go back. And the older I get, the more I am aware of everything that's going on in my body. And I really strive to eat right, take care of myself, get to a chiropractor once a week. So this is going to be a really great conversation today. I'm really looking forward to it.
So we have a special guest today, and I think we are really lucky to that we were able to bring this gentleman on. I heard him a while ago on Clubhouse, and through his conversation, he was just screaming out to me. So, I had to reach out and had to introduce myself and had to bring him on because he is so full of wealth of information. So his name is Dr. Shawn Shapiro, and he is educated as a chiropractor, but that's only part of who he is. He changed things changed in his life when his grandmother got sick many years ago, and she entered into the hospital for a valve replacement. And he said the surgery went well, but afterwards she got into some real problems through her health care, and it changed his outlook and the way he looked at things. And through that, then he went in and got his chiropractor degree, and he's been practicing it. But there's just much more to this man. So please allow me the honor to bring upon us all Dr. Shawn Shapiro. Hello,
Hey,
Dr. Shapiro. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm excited to do this.
Well, I'm excited that you're here and you said yes. It always shows me that, all you can, you keep on asking because people can always say no, but they can also say yes.
I used to say no all the time because I just didn't have the time, with what I was doing on Clubhouse. When I was doing Breakfast with Champions back last year, I was helping Sarah in the background, Sarah McCord in the background with that. And Breakfast with Champions was like a full-time job in itself, just managing all the egos. One time we had 120 different moderators. We were going 15 hours a day. And it was insane. And I think I was doing like 7 segments a week. And it was just too much. So yeah. So now I don't have that. I'm not part of the background anymore. Glenn sort of reorganized everything. And I think Ramon Ray, I don't know if you know him, is taking over, and they're doing really well. And I've been taking a break from there, but I'm going back next week, see how things are and see if we can find a spot for me that works.
Well, I actually love it. And most of my morning starts with Breakfast with Champions. And I always ask people if they listen to Clubhouse because it is one of the best apps that I've ever been introduced to. And I love it. And from that is when I heard you. So let's get into this now because there was something that you did. And you know what? I do things and they're not because I was learned from anything. It's because something comes to me. And you talked about the lion. And I was so blown away because, like I said, many years ago, I was going through some really a horrible time in my life. And I had to take control. And I sat down and I said to myself, okay, you're going to be this lion. You're going to take control. You're going to be fierce. And when I talked to myself, nobody else, because nobody else will listen to me. So, me, myself, and we had this great conversation and I became that lion. So let's talk about how we can bring that lion into ourselves.
Well, first you have to understand why you need to be a lion in this world, right? The truth is that we are inundated with messages, millions of them a week, and never mind a day, hundreds of thousands of different messages, whether it be just subliminal stuff that's written on a wall someplace, or whether it's, social media. I mean, how many scrolls do we have? I mean, when you do this type of work and you're online, you end up doing a lot more because you want to make sure that you're supporting your friends as well as them supporting you. So you get lots of messages, right? Yeah. And I think the message from all the messages is that there's a lot of distraction out there, and the lion doesn't get distracted. He knows who he is, or she is, the lioness, whichever you want. We got to be politically correct. And I don't know if there's pronouns for lions yet or not, but if there is, I apologize.
Go for it. It's okay. We're not going to hold you to it.
This is probably my last time here then. So, but that notwithstanding, the lion knows who they are and they know what they want, and they don't ask for that, right? They just go out and take it. And I started talking about messages. A lion listens to the hyenas cackling over to his right and just sits there in the shade and doesn't do anything because he knows, you know what, they're just hyenas. And he watches the cubs play down here, and he doesn't really get involved in that because that's their job, is to play, and his is just to sort of sit there. And when the lionesses are fighting, or when the other lions in the pride are fighting, doesn't necessarily get involved because it's really not his job to sort of oversee all that. So he's getting all these messages, but he's ignoring them until that one moment where he needs to remind himself why he doesn't get involved. And he becomes the lion, and he just tears the heck out of crap, right? He goes out, he hunts. He doesn't hunt, but he takes what he wants, doesn't ask for it. And I think, that messaging right there is a big part of what I've been doing in sort of my hiatus from Breakfast with Champions and in my own work on myself, is understanding that we can have whatever we want in this world, but the problem is most of us are begging for it. Most of us are asking for it, and most of us don't believe we're entitled to it. And that's why we beg and we ask.
And we're always looking for permission from others.
We're looking for permission to just be who we are.
Yes.
You can ask my children. I don't do that. I am who I am, and I make the jokes, and I do all the dad things, and I'm unapologetically imperfect. At the same time at the same time, I'm really thrilled with who I'm becoming, and I hope that I become more of it because I have a good time now. But essentially, again, asking for what you want is really not what we need in this world. We need just people deciding what they want and not fighting for it, but choosing it and moving into it.
Or stepping up to it, right? Like stepping up and taking action that it's yours.
So it is yours. And in some universe somewhere, you have it already. You have exactly what you want, right? So, I see things that are lacking in my life as just decisions that I haven't made to sort of take action on. You have to take some action, but it doesn't have to be with the warrior mentality that I've lived most of my life with. I can't tell you how much I've fought in this world for what I want and how stupid I feel like I was for doing it. I feel like we need to choose the things that we want and then just take them, but not at the expense of other people. I'm not saying be disheartened, being a bad person. I'm saying, or whatever that means, but I'm saying choose what you want and take it because it is yours. You were sent here for it. If it's for you, you can have it. And if you can have it, you can walk right into it without having to ask any permission, without having to ask anybody if you're worthy of it, because you already are. And that's what most people don't lack. And that's what the lion does. The lion stands up, takes what he wants, and then goes back to sleep. And
I absolutely love that description of that. I've never heard it put quite that way, but I love it. And it's so interesting to me because it's almost at times people are so afraid of their immense power. That they just, instead of taking it like you're talking about, they just sit back and watch others take it and they never move forward. And if people realized the absolute power we have and the power we have to manifest and take it, I think, oh my gosh, I think we would see so many people happier and living better. So I've never heard it put that way, but I'm gonna speak. I like that a lot. So, and I've never seen Breakfast of Champions either. So that's something. No, I've heard about it.
Whoa, where have you been?
I've heard about it from so many people, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's talking about this. Everyone's doing it. Why have I missed it? So I'm gonna have to start getting up for that. I don't even know when it is.
Starts 5 a.m. 6 days a week.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, so Breakfast with Champions, that it was kind of a phenomenon. Glenn Lundy started it, and he had a cast of characters that sort of helped him, people he had worked with for years. I found it because I was bored as all get out during the pandemic, and people had said, Shawn, you really should be talking on Clubhouse. You could open rooms, you could do it. And I was like, no, because I had heard that there was a lot of political stuff. It was around the time that the elections happened and January 6th, and I just was not interested in any of that. I just was so tired of that dialogue. But what ended up happening was another friend said, hey, I think you should be here. We could use a chiropractic voice. No, you have no problem telling people what for. So please tell them what for about chiropractic. I was like, okay. So I got on, and about a week and a half later, I found Breakfast with Champions. And there was a wonderful woman named Brielle Reich who sort of brought me up and then started kind of coaching me up a little bit, because I had a lot of anxiety speaking in front of, we had up to 5,000 people in that room sometimes during the pandemic. Yeah. And, and then I became a bit player, and then I started making friends, and it was like a great ride for a long time. And then we did the whole 15 hours. I don't know what Sarah was thinking. Sarah McCord, if you don't know who she is, you should look her up, because she's a powerhouse. And boy, she's not the only one. She is one person who I would call a lioness and never mess with. But
you have a few lionesses in Clubhouse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's just some of the greatest people I've ever met there. I've had great conversations with all of them. So as far as Breakfast with Champions go, I'm getting a little off topic. Sorry. I told you I would do this, Glenda. So as far as Breakfast with Champions goes, it's just a place to find motivation, inspiration, and education. And like I said, we do it 6 days a week, and we've had literally hundreds of mods come through and sort of give their version, like I'm doing right now, of whatever topic we chose for the day, or whatever topic we choose now. I guess now there's no more days. You just sort of themes of the day. You just sort of do what you want. And I'm looking forward to that. I might talk about this topic next Thursday. I have an hour. So.
Well, it really does. So this is what I said, years ago when I was going through some very hard times, I didn't know if I had, I knew I had to do something different than I had done previous. And I was scared shitless to do what I needed to do. And what I needed to do is I sat down and started focusing on becoming a lioness, becoming that creature that crawls around and who's aware of everything. And that creature that
they do all the hunting.
Right. So it's like knowing that you're stronger than what you give yourself credit for, and then when you know what your prey is, you go for it. You go for it because you are smarter and stronger, and you know what's going on around you. And I use that entire thing, the time I had gone through a situation, it was going through 9-10 months of my life, and it was crazy how I was able to do incredible things because I put myself in there, that I allowed myself. So it's giving ourselves permission. So that's one of the major things, is we don't give ourselves permission, that we always seem to get into our own way. We knock ourselves down before anybody else can knock us even down.
Yeah. I think so. What you're talking, you took on the lioness as an avatar, right? Like that was sort of your armor. So there was a guy at the beginning of Breakfast with Champions, named Alpha Six. You think about him what you want, but he used to say it this way, and I sort of adopted it too. Was like Iron Man isn't Iron Man until he hits his chest, and that costume surrounds him, right?
Yeah.
And when I realized how nervous I was about talking and how nervous I still am about talking, I mean, that was my greatest fear, was speaking in public, right? And when I started doing it, I decided to come up with my own sort of avatar. I named it Solomon. And there were a number of reasons why I named it Solomon and stuff like that. But Solomon was a badass. Solomon did not fear anything. He did not ask to speak. He spoke. He didn't speak over people. He didn't have to, because people just made way for him. And I had this whole little dialogue that I did with myself because at Breakfast with Champions, I would get like Spizak would talk. He still does, but David Spizak would talk over me incessantly because he's that guy. He is that guy, and he's part of that pattern that I sort of patterned myself after. But I also added like features from people like Joy Farley and Laura Wilde. I don't know if you know who they are. Yes. Joy Farley, the greatest friend you can have on the planet, and just the nicest person I've ever met, but also the biggest ass kicker I've ever met in my entire life. When I get down, she don't let me sit there. She does not let me stew. She kicks me in the ass and she tells me what to do. So, I took pieces of everything, including Alpha, who I didn't really have a strong relationship with. And I made them into Solomon. And when Solomon spoke, he just took over. And that's what ended up happening.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. Yeah. First of all, you are a chiropractor, a doctor in that level. Now there's something, people come to you because somehow their body shifts, something happens to them. And a lot of times, and you tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of times it's some of the stresses that come into our lives that sort of take over our body, and it actually can move into all different areas into our body. But stress affects us in so many ways. Let's talk about what we can do, how we can change our lives so that we're not so affected by stress, because you're seeing it every day with people in their lives, are you not?
I am. So it's really important to quantify what stress is, because it can be broken down into four different parts. But we'll get into the other one a little bit. But physical, chemical, emotional, and spiritual. Those are the types of stresses that we have in the world. The spiritual one, that's really hard to sort of measure. I have a friend I have a number of friends who are spiritual mediums, and I go to them for that stuff. But for as far as the emotional, chemical, and physical, that's what I see people for here. And I can tell you with some certainty that most of the patients that have gone through my treatment program and are doing real well, they break down when life breaks down for them, when life sort of throws them a curve and they don't know what to do. Most of it is being trapped, feeling trapped into a situation that they don't want to be, whether it be with a job, whether it be with a spouse, whether it be with their children, whatever it is, backed into a corner. Nobody gets healthy in this world. You know why? Because it is not appropriate to come out swinging when somebody does that, right? There's no outlet for that. So what do? They take that negative emotional stress and they store it in their body, either chemically or emotionally. Physically. And physically, they do it by tightening their muscles so that their bones that are already out of place, because everybody has them out of place, go just a little bit more out of place and put pressure on the nervous system so that the body can't thrive and overcome that physical stress. And then the emotional stress can also become chemical stress, because people will turn to self-medication with alcohol and drugs. They will take over-the-counter drugs, which they have side effects. And not only do they have side effects, they have consequences, long-term consequences to your health. Even reliance on herbs is not the greatest thing in the world, because while I think that plants are teachers, I think that most of us came here with a complete package of self-healing and self-regulating energy. All right, we call that a vitalistic energy in chiropractic, and I think that when we deny that and we start to supplant men's ego and so-called intelligence, debatable, right? Men's egos and man's egos and man's intelligence, again with the pronouns, I'm going to get kicked off of everything. Then when we start to supplant that and think we know more than nature and this universe, which is just one huge quantum computer that spits out information and we're just one of the bugs that it created, then why do you expect to get anything less than bad results when it really comes down to just removing the interference in the body? Now, there are some horrible things that happen to people genetically and stuff like that, but they're so uncommon, and people will throw that in my face like, oh, I had this, my son had a genetic condition. I'm very sorry for that, and I can't speak to it because most people would take offense to what I really believe about it, and that's not because I think that they're bad people, but just because it's hard to hear that stuff about your kids, right? But that is so few and far between as far as our population goes, that really we use that as an excuse to give somebody else the permission to take care of us, to take care of our health, and to make decisions about our health that don't really have anything to do with health at all, but managing symptoms. And that's just a shell game. That's just a money transfer. It has nothing to do with getting you well. And that's what I do as a chiropractor. Is I go in there and I break that crap up. I say, no more. We're going to take what's inside you, which is enough. I don't care who you are. You have it inside of you. And we're going to bring that out, and we are going to let you heal yourself. And all I'm going to do is guide the brain, which is so distracted with all those messages we talked about, okay, and all the stress that we talked about, physical, chemical, emotional, and spiritual. And I'm going to guide the brain back to what it needs to work on, so your body does the work. I may be the laziest person on the planet.
No,
I love that you're talking about this, because I have a problem with my left hip, and it's after many years of a marriage that was verbally abusive, I would say. And they say that you store memory in your hip. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but there's no reason, any other reason for me to have it. And I've really been working on it by using my words to release. And I don't take any medications like you talk about. I don't do anything like that. I don't want a hip replacement. When you talk about your body healing itself, I truly believe we're capable of that, and we're miraculous beings that if we put our mind to it, we can. How do you feel about that?
Well, first I want to say that I don't have a problem with medicine. I have a problem with the overuse and first use of some medications. Let's look at OxyContin and that whole story and what that's done to not just the people who were destroyed, but the economy, everything that destroyed. But that said, I don't have a problem with medications. I've taken Advil. I've taken, pretty much just Advil. but I can't think of any other medications that I've taken now that I think of it. But what I'm getting at is that medicine is not bad. Okay, it's the overuse. It's the too quick to put that in a body, as opposed to just see what we can take out of the body first, not surgically, but just in the form of interface. And sometimes surgery is necessary too. I've had surgeries too. As a chiropractor, I've had surgery. It's really not an anti-medicine, anti-surgical view that I have. What I think is that we should start conservatively and work our way up to that. And those should be the last resort. That said, how much time do we have?
We're still going good. Go ahead.
So if we're going to talk about memory in the body, I can tell you about an experience I had when I was an intern in St. Louis. We got rotated through these clinics, harbor-like clinics, the Salvation Army, mostly drug addicts. We would go in and adjust everybody for free. We'd also adjust the staffs at these clinics as well. Well, I was sort of a young Turk. I had no fear of adjusting anybody or doing anything. And the clinician who was in charge of that clinic knew that. And this was over in East St. Louis, I think. I don't really remember now. It's either It doesn't make a difference. Anyway, it was a poor section of town, right? And we had a lot of drug addicts come in. But this woman came down who was the either bookkeeper or secretary for the clinic, spoke very little English. She was Russian born and very young, very sort of hunched over and in pain all the time. And I asked, and the clinician goes, "Oh, I want you to see her." And he had a little smirk on his face, but I didn't pay attention to it, right? I just did my thing. So I take her in the room and I feel her back and I say, "God, what have these people been working on? Because this is just textbook. Like 100 years ago, the guy who created chiropractic wrote about this exact thing in somebody's lower back, and I know exactly how to clear it." So that's what I did. Well, I'll tell you, she flipped over, started swearing. I'm told it was swearing, but swearing at me in Russian, kicking at me, screaming at me, clawing at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what did I just do? I mean, I was like, you know, and I'm recriminating myself in my head. I was like, you're just too quick to act too quick. You don't think about these things. I knew I did the right thing for her. But it was the worst subluxation I've ever felt in my entire life. And it was just muscles surrounding the vertebra, and the vertebra felt like it was twisted. It was just so much anger, and I just wanted to release it. That's what I did. She freaked out. Clinician, still smirking, moves me out of the room because I guess even he didn't have the you know what's to adjust her that way. I did it. I did the rotation again like 4 weeks later. I didn't get in trouble or anything like that. I didn't do anything wrong. She came down the next time I was there just to see me. And I'm like going, oh God, this is not. But this is before Yelp and Yahoo and Google reviews and stuff like that. So I'm going, here comes your review, Dr. Shapiro.
Oh, goodness.
Intern Shapiro, whatever the hell you are. So I'm like going, oh God. She comes up and she gives me this hug, and her friend came with her who's also Ukrainian but spoke Russian. Big deal. She's translating. She tells me this story, and I'm getting to your point, Nicole. That's so. When she was a kid, oh God, Siri. When she was a kid. Now this is. She's at home with her parents. They live in an apartment in Moscow. She's subject to a home invasion. The people come in. They beat the hell out of the parents. They beat the hell out of her. And as she's trying to protect her father, one of the guys kicks her in the back. They take what they want and leave them there. And the dad had brain trauma and stuff like that as a result of the beating he took. Lived for a while though, I guess. And essentially, when I adjusted her and I just sort of went in there doing my thing, I released all that.
Wow.
And for a moment, we sort of supplanted time and space and went right back to that moment for her. And she relived it, and everything she couldn't do because she was so small, right? When it happened, she did to me. she beat the hell out of me, right? Which I'm happy to say that I did just fine with, because I had forgotten about it 5 minutes after it happened, to be honest with you, because I knew I had done the right thing. And she agreed with me about a month later when I did my other rotations there. So, yeah, we store crap in our bodies. And yeah, we don't know the full consequences of the not only physical trauma, but the mental trauma that we're storing when it happens.
Absolutely, because when things happen to us, even as a child, you know, it's something that sometimes holds us back throughout our entire life.
I can say that with some certainty that that's the case with me. I mean, just recently went through something like that where I had to work through my ish on a thing that happened to me in the 6th grade. So, wow. I mean, there's, and it was not not anything like what this young lady went through. I can assure you, well, she's actually older than me now, then and now still. But what I'm saying is like, yeah, we all have that ish that we store in our bodies and we remember and we use as a reason why we don't get what we want, right? And that's just not the way that we should look. We should look forward. We should look at what we want and forget what happened before, because we got what happened before because we didn't know any better, or we didn't listen, or we knew better, but we wanted to do something naughty, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We made a decision one way or the other, ignorant or not, to do what we did back then. And all the signs told us not to, most likely, but we still did it. And now, like I said, we have the opportunity from this second on, all three of us, everybody watching this, we have the opportunity right now to look forward to what we want and just take it and stop making excuses as to why we can't have it because of what happened to us in our past, what our mother, father, teachers, preachers did to us. It doesn't make any difference. I know it's sad to say. I know it's hard to hear because some people have had really, really bad stories, and it's really, really hard to get over. Okay, but we have the opportunity right now to live a life past all that, and I think we should take that opportunity whenever we get the chance, because now not only when we have the chance, but realize that we have the chance every minute to change everything. Absolutely everything can be changed right this second.
Absolutely. And you know what? And I love that you're talking about this. I say in my coaching, I use your history as a saying is from how I have always learned things is I use my rear view mirror effect. And my rear view mirror is to look at what's happened, but not to stay in there, but to learn because it will help me with things in my future. And it has. It's not that you sit there and continuously lick your wound, but sort of looking at it as you become stronger by seeing that you've made it through and celebrate the fact that you've made it through. So then take that and make that into part of what you can do now moving forward. Because once you have that strength and that, the wisdom that can lead you, it's crazy what it can do for your future.
Right. You sound like a Barry Manilow song.
Glenda Manilow.
There's a bunch of millennials going, I don't know what this old man is talking about right now. I'm out of here. But Barry Manilow sang a song called "I Made It Through the Rain." And
I made it through some major storms,
exactly,
so I'm going to tell you.
Exactly. But you're using the storm as wind in your sails,
yes,
as opposed to a chain that anchors you to where you were before. And that's the difference.
That's powerful. That's very powerful because we can never change anything. So, for me, I look, what did I learn and where did it bring me to? And what good can I do with it now for others that haven't lived through it like I did? So I just, I make it my springboard story to let people know that, look, I made it through and I've changed my life and I've done things I never thought I would do or could do. And so if you use it to your power side instead of your whiny, weak side, you can make incredible changes in your life at the drop of a hat. And I'm so glad we're talking about this because anyone can do it.
Anyone can. It doesn't take, trust me, if it took a certain amount of smarts to do it, I wouldn't be able to. So I'm totally on board with that. But I think that the last thing I said there was probably the best thing I've said is that, when we talked a little earlier about having to fight for what we want. And I think when we look at life as more of a sailor or a sail, having a sail instead of oars, where we're fighting against current and we can only move by our own intention. Like our inner intention is powerful, but outer intention, the world get wind when I didn't get wind, you just turn your sail the right way and you fight. And I have a coach. His name is Pete Camiolo. He's a great chiropractic coach. He's a great guy. He won't watch this, so it doesn't make any difference when I say that. But that said, I was talking to him the other day, and he's had a really hard time getting me to get excited about statistics in my business. Like I am like, let's just do it. Doesn't make any difference if we measure it or not. Let's just do it. And like, that's still that whole warrior, I got to fight through it mentality. And what I went to a seminar in Denver about 2 weeks ago with him and the guy who's the head of the coaching company was up there explaining the statistics. And finally it made sense. Like he showed it to me in the form of a flow chart. And like I said, I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. So it finally made sense because he probably did it in crayon and and he made little stick figures and kept me interested. But the ultimate thing that I got from it was something I wrote in my phone, and I told him yesterday when I was on a coaching call with him. The measurement of statistics for me is the end of the warrior mentality, because if I start using the statistics, I am using a sail. I am turning my sail into the wind and letting the outer intention of the world move me where I want to go, as opposed to just fighting for what I want. And I that's very liberating for me. I know it sounds silly that I don't want to use statistics. I don't want to do math. I don't want to do all that stuff. Like I said, I'm not bright. But for me to understand that this is a way for me to get more resources, for me to get more energy, so I can spend time with my kids, so that I can stop worrying about things so much, because I'm using a sail instead of oars, or just bobbing up and down in the water. Well, that's huge. That's huge for me. And again, I don't have huge problems. I'm lucky. But somebody can take that does have those huge problems, and just understand that it doesn't cost anything to use the wind. It's one of the few free things left in this world.
Well, and I get that totally, because I believe in my life that, throughout lots of my parts of my life, I had always had that struggle, struggling growing up, struggling with everything. And then I got to a point where it was just about, now at this point in my life, it's about flowing. If something doesn't feel right, I don't go against the wind. If it doesn't feel right, it's about, I'm very much into my body. I can feel what feels right or what feels wrong. And it's allowing my body to flow with it and learning to read that body that I have. And I believe our emotions are a GPS to help guide us through that. And I'm very aware of all of that. I was going to mention, we were talking about drugs and everything. Well, not too long ago, I got very hurt. I actually had a break to my sacrum, and the doctor kept on trying to, give me pain meds. And I don't do pain meds. I don't really do any meds. And, I managed, now I'm back up and walking again. It was like 12 weeks later. And when I came back to see him, and he was totally blown away by how well I was moving. And it was like, I healed myself. And that's what it's all about, is understanding your body, feeling what feels right. When something is feeling wrong, don't go with it, accept it, and try another way. But it's really about tuning in to all of these things inside of us.
I got distracted when you started saying "about," because you guys say it all wrong up in Canada. I'm just kidding. I think
you gotta love us Canadians.
I love Canadians. I'm just kidding. So what you said about not fighting what's going on in your body. It's also about not fearing what's going on in your body. You're in pain for a reason, right? Now, pain, We are a pain adverse culture. We would rather, I think, die than be in pain in some cases. It used to be your biggest fear was that you would have to publicly speak. And now it's that I'm going to be in pain. And we can't deal with that, right? And I think that we are fearing a natural process. Now, I don't want anybody to be in pain, obviously. I want unicorns and rainbows for everybody all the time.
Oh, I love rainbows, yes.
Okay, I'm using it metaphorically. I'm not going to create a rainbow. But my hope is that when somebody hears this, it's that they understand that pain is there for a reason. You get sick for a reason. And you fight it off. You get overwhelmed and you get sick. Now, we're not going to say any words that get us banned on Facebook or anything like that. But the overwhelming fear that came along with the pandemic was an absolute fear of a natural process that happens in the body when we get sick. And it seemed like it might be overwhelming. It seemed like it might be more dangerous, but I think that the numbers have bear, and you can check the CDC for this, it's not my numbers, that it wasn't as voracious a bug, as we feared it would be. And the fact that we were in fear made it worse. I guarantee that.
Well,
Someday history will look back and say that the fear that was associated with this natural reaction to a pathogen made it much worse. Unfortunately, made a lot of things worse for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm going to totally agree with that, and that's all I'm going to say because I know I'm getting it from both sides.
I'm very careful with the words that I use. I know,
exactly.
But the truth is that being afraid of anything that happens to you physically is no way to live, because that's how shut-ins happen. That's how hermits happen. And people do the same thing with emotions. They don't want to deal with any of the bad stuff that happens to people with emotions. And they become hermits and they become shut-ins.
And they also take things and they push it down into them. And that's how a lot of people get sick, because they're constantly pushing down their emotions instead of being able to voice them or to deal with them, which is a really unfortunate part of, and our body yells out at us because it doesn't want that to happen to us.
Again, it's the whole fear of pain thing. When we stifle something, we fear the pain that it's going to cause us. So we, like I said before, we self-medicate with alcohol, we self-medicate with drugs, we medicate with alcohol, we medicate with drugs. We do all kinds of things that make sure we don't have to deal with the one thing that's true, and that we need to move well, think well, and eat well in this lifetime in order to make sure that things that are scary don't catch us.
Well, let's talk briefly before our time is up, because this is a very big thing for me, is let's talk about self-care, because this is what people, always think it's not going to happen to them. So, it's not about, I believe you can eat anything in moderation. You can have your snacks, you can have your dessert and all the rest of it, but what are you actually filling yourself with most of the time?
I was not a big President Obama fan here in the United States, but I will tell you this. I voted for him the first time. And the reason I voted for him the first time, because he was here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire a lot. He actually liked it here. It was part of the New Hampshire primary when it was a big deal. And we met him, and I met him in the gym. He's a nice guy. I don't have anything bad to say about him as a person. His ideology may be not the same as mine, but that doesn't really make any difference, because he said one thing in a speech while he was here that changed my whole opinion of him in that moment. Was he said, healthcare, and he stopped saying this after he started taking money from different people, but healthcare can be as simple as just going for a walk. You can just go for a walk, and you can walk around the block, and that would be more than you've done the entire month before. And then you could increase it, and you could increase it, and you could increase it, and you can build on your successes. How often do you see that YouTube video with the Army colonel, I think, or maybe it was a general, where he talked about making your bed? Self-care can be as simple as just making your bed in the morning, because you have one win that you can stack to get you to that next one. And I think, we can talk about food, we can talk about medications, we can talk about going to the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, we can talk about listening to positive things online as opposed to negative things online. But the simple fact of the matter is if you can take one step today, it doesn't make any difference what that step is. It's what you believe about that step that matters more than anything I can tell you about the chemistry of something, about the biomechanics of something, about any of that stuff. The best doctor is the person listening to me talk right now. That's who the best doctor is, because your body is so much smarter than I will ever be. And that's just not me just self-deprecating. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
There's a vitalistic energy within each one of us, a universal intelligence that binds all matter together to tell it what it is. We have an intelligence inside of our brain that helps us determine what those things are. And everybody sees things just a little differently because that's the way it was designed to happen. And if you can make your bed, if you can do the dishes, if you can clean out your refrigerator, the moldy green lettuce that you left in there because you bought it and you said you're going to start eating it. If you can do that one step today, then that's self-care. And yeah, you can go anywhere from there. Okay. I hope it takes you to the top of Everest. But there's one thing that gets you to the top of Everest, and that's the first step at base camp towards the mountain. And
I love it. Yeah.
Well said.
Most people are afraid to take that because they think they have to climb Everest today. And you don't.
No.
So self-care is all about just taking one step at a time.
I love that. And one thing I've been dying to ask you, and I'm so curious about, is you're a clinical hypnosis. You
I'm
do
a clinical
hypnosis?
therapist. Yeah, certified.
Do you do that in your chiropractic care with people?
No, we mostly do that when they pay their bill. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yeah, you do not see the numbers.
Here
You will
comes the
gladly
state board
pay me.
now. So I used to do it more. I don't do it as much now because we are pretty busy with the chiropractic, and I'm trying to hire good chiropractors to work with me so that I have more time to do that with. I have some coaching clients. I have a small amount of coaching clients. I don't take a lot of them. A lot of them are here in Portsmouth. Some of them are online, and I do that with them. But I don't do it a lot. It just takes up a lot of time, and we're kind of in a recession right now, so we need to keep the cash flow going. And I can make a lot more as a chiropractor in an hour than I can as a hypnotherapist in an hour, because most people aren't going to pay what I get, seeing all those people, unfortunately.
Okay. So I just wondered if because we know we run about 95% of subconscious. So I was just curious if somehow you work that into your chiropractic treatment.
So with neuro-linguistic programming, I use it a lot to disarm a patient who's in sympathetic otonia. So sympathetic otonia is the fight or flight reflex, right? And most people who come in or are in pain are in this, right? So I will use hand gestures. I will use specific words, tones, mirror and matching them to get them sort of on the same page with me so that we can interface a little better. So yes, I do use that part of it there. I don't see patients long enough to really induct anybody into hypnosis.
Gotcha.
That takes a few minutes, and most patients are looking to get in and out. To be honest with you, they don't want to spend a lot of time with me. And after spending so much time with me, you probably understand why now.
Well, I think you're a delight, and I love hearing about, because I so understand and agree on your issues that you're bringing up, and I believe that we are so wise. We are so much wiser than we ever give any of ourselves credit for. It saddens me sometimes when I see that. But then we've got the other side of the stick where we sometimes have to deal with the ego, because when we're dealing with the ego, then that's another whole world.
Yeah, it is. It's a horrible world.
The
world of ego is a horrible world. I wish I would stay out of it forever. It just doesn't happen, unfortunately.
Well, it's not something that we, unfortunately, if I think part of it is how people have been brought up then when they have such really heavy duty egos, but that's on for another. So if our if our guests are watching us today, what golden little nuggets could you give them, as if now they're starting back and hopefully moving forward? We're finished COVID, although I know that I've been told there's a new we've got a new booster that's out that people are starting to I've been asked whether about there's a new booster that's coming out now for the new part of whether it's COVID or whatever it's called now. But what type of golden little nuggets could you give to people as they're trying to move forward? You talked about a recession happening. We've got lots of things going on mentally with people.
I think the most important thing that people have to understand is that when FDR said it at the beginning of the United States entry into World War II, when he said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, that really is probably the most profound thing any president has ever said in this country, because making decisions from fear, allowing that to guide you, is no way to live. It's just no way to live. There is no reason to make decisions from fear. And whether you realize it or not, and whether your government says you have to do one thing or another, you have a choice in what you do and how you do it. And by exercising that choice and deciding how you're going to absorb whatever thing that they want you to do, you take back the power. And understand that there is no fight if you don't fight back, but there's no fight if you don't give your body away. You don't let somebody else make decisions about your body. We recently had a decision by the Supreme Court here. I don't necessarily agree with it or disagree with it, because that's really not it's not something that I ever have to get involved with. I have 2 girls, and I'm going to educate them as to what the choices they have are. And I think that's important as parents, that we take responsibility for it, and we understand that the government is not our parents.
Yeah.
But in that, I hear a lot of the people who were screaming for everybody to get in line for one thing, to now say, oh, because the government can say whatever they want as long as it's not this, because it's my body, my choice, which I give them their opportunity to say, and whether I agree with it or not, I agree with it, so we don't get everybody angry, but it's my body, my choice, right? And my body, my choice means everything in my body, whether I'm male or female or whatever pronouns are used. I'm going to get kicked off for pronouns, I'm telling you. So
no, we're all cool. We realize what it's saying.
My point is that you were given one thing when you came into this world of into this physical world. You were given this body, and it should be your choice what we do with it. Whether it's legislated that way or not, I have no control over. I'll give my money to the candidates I like and try to influence things as much as I can on the down low. But the simple fact of the matter is that these forces have different things. But my opinion, if I were put in charge today, and thank God nobody will, my opinion is that it's your body, it's your choice, what you have done with it. And when we give up one thing, we give up everything.
Yeah.
That's as succinct as I can be about it without actually using the C word.
Yeah, no, I get it. And, I have 2 now adult children, and, for my kids, it was always about respecting yourself, loving yourself, and you have a voice. So for me, it was respecting what their voice was all the time. And when you give them power, they have, we can, when we give our children power, and we've also showed them the way as being a good leader, by love and respect and so forth, they can learn the proper way. We actually was on a call yesterday on podcast, and we talked about patience. And part of patience is being the great teacher when you are a parent and you have that patience that you can give to yourself and your children, it really teaches everything for our children to help them through their life as well. Never mind ourselves, first and foremost.
I think what I started with at the beginning of this is a great way to wind this up. I think as far as our kids go, is that we do teach them that everything is a choice. The life that they have right now, even though they didn't understand it, was a choice. If they're not getting along in school, they made choices that made that harder, and they can make choices that make that better. I am, inside of me, the most protective parent on the planet. I would kill you if you looked at my kid the wrong way, if I could.
I get that. I'm a bear.
But I also understand that there's a point where my helicopter needs to be parked in the backyard, and that they have to be. The only job that I have with them is to arm them with the understanding that they have this choice. Sure. I'm not so sure that even 5 years ago that would have been my answer to the whole what do we teach our kids about self-care question is, right? But the self-care but the answer is to me now that I teach them that everything is a choice and that there are infinite possibilities to every action that they take, and they really just need to decide what they want, and what they want will materialize based on that choice and what they do and how they step into it. And I think that is the most important thing that we can teach our kids, because that answers every question that they'll ever have about how life works. What you choose is what you will get.
I love it. Well, you have been a total delight, and I thank you so much for joining us today. And this has been just spectacular.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Nicole, do you have any last thought before we leave?
I do. I've so enjoyed our conversation, Dr. Shawn. When you come in with such knowledge and common sense, which sometimes we don't see enough of anymore, about making choices.
That's rarely used with me.
Well, you know what? You shine today. You absolutely shine today with your wisdom and that common sense. And I love the fact that you brought up how smart our bodies are if we listen to them and learn their language. And I love the fact that you said, my body, my choice. I personally am a pure blood and plan to stay that way. And I'm glad that there's no judgment here. It's really been wonderful learning from you today. And thank you so much for being a guest.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me sort of ramble on like I did. I feel like
it was amazing. It really was. I was just like, I was hanging on every word. It truly enjoyed it.
Great. I'm glad. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hope for those who are watching that you know that this is all about learning, growing, and sharing. So, none of us know everything, and I don't think anybody ever knows anything. Life is a step-by-step learning as each day continues on. And if Dr. Shawn here has some incredible wisdom, if you would like to reach out to him later, Dr. Shawn, where can people reach you if they want to reach out?
So I started a podcast.
Okay.
I started a podcast and I've got it all up now. There's only 2 or 3 episodes of it right now, but I do have guests. I have a lot of stuff lined up, and I hope that people will look for that. It's called In Alignment with Dr. Shawn, and it's available wherever you catch a pod. So feel free to listen to it, and also I really like the comments and people telling me where to stick it sometimes too. So that's fun as well. So if you got any of that, please feel free to put those in the comments, and thank you for letting me promote that.
I love it. Well, we'll get some links and we'll put it on the video, so anybody who's watching this afterwards will be able to know where to reach out to him. He is just a wealth of information, and you just never know where wisdom does come from this guy who thinks he's just been just been rambling on, but his rambling is just pure wisdom. And we thank you for that wisdom, and thank you for enlightening us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Take care and have a great day. And remember, your body, your choice, your world. Enjoy. Wishing you all well tomorrow. And